All right, today we are looking at Titus chapter 1, verses 13, or verse 13. I'll start by reading it in the UBS 5 edition and then reading it in the NASB 95. So, He marturia haute estin alethes de hein aitian elenke autus apatamos hina hugiainosen en te piste. So reading it in the New American Standard 95, this testimony is true. For this reason, reprove them severely, so that they may be sound in the faith. So the context here certainly matters. If we scroll up to verse 12, we realize that what's being talked about here is the Cretans as a whole, specifically as he zooms in on the false teachers that are bringing in family disrupting, or family, as the term is, upsetting, things that are upsetting whole families for teaching these false things. He references a Cretan prophet, one of their own writers, that says Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, lazy gluttons. And we realize that's the liar paradox. When someone says, I am lying, is that true or is it not? And then Paul, as it were, breaks that cycle by saying, indeed, it is true. So we have the nominative article here, nominative testimony. So the testimony, what's been said above, the testimony. And what testimony? Haute, this testimony. So that's an adjective modifying. So it's a near demonstrative, this testimony. All of that's functioning as the subject of the verb estin, this testimony is, and then we have alethes. If we look at our software there, alethes is the adjective nominative singular. So because it's nominative, it's functioning as the predicate nominative here. So predicate nominative. So this testimony is true. This is the conclusion of the paradox introduced in verse 12. And then, the new sentence, Paul picks up with saying, dia, so through or on account of which, or you could say this pronoun is responding to the fact of, based on the fact of this previous statement as a whole, because of the fact that this is true, based on this truth, for this very, and then itia is reason or cause. So for this very reason, on account of which reason, to say it very unnaturally, on account of which reason, here we have a second person imperative. If we look at that, second person imperative singular, present active. So you, Titus, are to do something. You are to expose, convict, reprove, or as the New American Standard has it, reprove, which should be familiar if we realize that's actually one of the commands for what a what an elder is to be able to do, so that they may be able to exhort in sound doctrine and to refute. Same word there. Elenko is also seen in verse 13. So he's saying, Titus, lead out in this, but also realize, Titus, you are setting an example for what the elders as a whole are supposed to be able to do in the churches, city by city, that you're appointing elders in. So rebuke them, or reprove, autos, them. So that's the direct object, rebuke them. And then we have this other word here, apatamos, an adverb, which is meaning sharply. So this is modifying the verb, rebuke them sharply. But we have a hina. This is the adverbial purpose hina. The purpose is so that, and when we have a hina, we're expecting to see a subjunctive, and indeed that's what we see. So we have a subjunctive here. So we have a purpose clause. So that they might, is kind of that subjunctive term, they might be what? They might be, and this is to be healthy, or to be sound, or as the DBL has it, to be accurate, so that they might be sound or accurate. And this idea of soundness is kind of the metaphorical healthiness, which we even use the term today, like a healthy church. Using a living terminology for health is something that's true of a biological organism. But to say something is healthy is to really say something sound and accurate and aligned with how it should be, so that they might be sound in the faith. En te piste. So that's a prepositional phrase, and soundness in faith. Now, there's one thing to just note here. Of course, the DB or the NASB supplies they, so that they may be sound. As we can see from this last clause, there is not an explicit third person plural, so there's not a they. That's implied within this verb, that there's a third person plural there. One thing that is a source of some debate, though, is who is this they? Is the they referring to so that the false teachers might be sound, in which case the they is directly linked to those that need to be rebuked, rebuke them sharply? Or is this they a reference all the way back up to verse 10 that talks about, not verse 10, verse 12. Is it a reference back to verse 12 where it talks about the Cretans as a whole? So speaking to, in that sense, it would be the believers, those that are potentially being deceived by these false teachers, those that are being upset, those that are being deceived and damaged by this false teaching. Is it so that they might be sound, or is it so that the false teachers themselves might be sound? So that's an exegetical decision that is worth noting, but either way, in our English translation for NASB, the fact that they is supplied doesn't actually definitively land there. It doesn't explicitly tell us one way or the other. The assumption would be that it's the most near referent in autos, but that's not necessarily guaranteed based on who it is that's to be sound. So that's Titus 1, verse 13, talking about the importance of responding to false teaching, and Titus is leading by example in what the elders in Crete are to do.